Hello and welcome, fellow awesomologists, to Awesomology. I'm Sue.
And I'm Ben, and in this episode, we're kicking off 2024 by starting a whole new, big, bright, hairy,
A hairy
audacious
adventure.
adventure. And once again, we are inviting all of you along with us, and we're so excited.
Yes, we teased it in our December episode, and now we're ready to tell you what we're planning. I think we're ready. Are we ready?
As ready as we're going to be, baby. Let's go.
Okay. All right. You ready? I'll do the drum roll.
Okay.
That's my drum roll. That was
That
terrible. You
was
just
good.
go. Just go.
So I'm going to say it just like we've been saying it to each other and to the team.
Yeah.
We're going to write a book.
What?
That's it. Yeah.
What
But,
if I was really surprised right now? That would
right.
be.
Well, honestly, if you were really surprised, this episode would probably be over, and you'd be like, "Ben, come here. Can we talk,
Can
please,
we
real quick
can we
about
just
this book thing?" Yeah,
boop?
pause button, please. But yeah, no, I mean, for us, it's really logical. We've been creating and putting out what we think, and uh, what we've gotten some feedback from others on is really good content for a long, long time. And we've learned a lot over the years. We've had lots of really cool experiences, both with our owner credit union and with our credit union and small business clients through the QSO, through Exclamation, and we've got a lot of cool stuff to share. And some of the initial ideas I'm super excited about because I think that what will wind up happening is some version of a really diverse and exciting collection of content that can be inspirational, tips and tricks, how to type stuff, um, you know, self and professional development type stuff, and just, lots of really good things that I think people in our shoes or people that um, have marketing on their radar at any level will be able to read, learn from, maybe be inspired by, gain something positive by. So, and at the end of the day, that's, a big part of what we do is, helping to empower people to do their best work, do it in a positive way, inspire, motivate, spread some positivity in the world. And I'm really excited for a cool new way for us to do it.
That was great. You did great. I think we're done
Ah,
here. I
thanks.
can't. I have nothing to say.
See you next
No.
time.
Okay, bye. No, I think, well, one thing I should say is I feel like we should give credit to our friend and former teammate Vince, I mean, we should really, every time we record a podcast, we should realize we're giving him a little credit
Yeah, let's
because,
just add that to the footer at the end of the
yeah, we
podcast.
should. And it wouldn't be here without Vince, although who left us, but that's besides the point. But I recall, and now this could be, I could have recalibrated everything I know about the past, and it could be revisionist history, but I recall this being an idea he verbalized during Plantopia 4, maybe 5 years ago, and
You might
I
be right.
I
I don't
recall
remember.
we agreed. We were like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And we didn't do it yet. So, I am
Here we are.
excited. I just wanna make sure that I wonder if he listens. Have you ever thought about that? Do you think he
I have.
listens?
I have thought about it. Haven't asked, haven't verified.
Yeah,
Let's make that a 2024. As long
yeah.
as we're prepared for him to be like, yeah, no, no,
Yeah, no, why
sure
would
no.
I? I don't. Maybe let's just not ask. I think that's
Yeah.
maybe the better way to go.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we should pay homage to Vince, who I think had the original idea. Um, and it's a good place to start. It's been on my mind. It's been on your mind,
Yeah.
wherever it came from. So, what is the purpose of this project? You laid such good groundwork. Like you got a little ahead of
A spoiler alert.
you
Yeah.
got ahead of me here, but
Sorry, everybody.
I couldn't give up this question because it
Well,
sets up the next question. And
What it
that's just how
yeah.
I am.
No, no, it's still a valid question, even though I maybe gave peeled back the curtain a little too far too early here. But um, what it reminds me, or what comes to mind first when I think about why do this thing, is I'm reminded of uh, either a conversation that we had as a team, again a once upon a time thing. I don't remember when it happened or who started the conversation, and it maybe even was a piece of content that we put out, which could have been just a simple social media post, maybe even a blog post. I totally should have done some research before this episode, but it doesn't matter.
Why
What
start
matters
now?
is that, yeah, right. What matters is that once upon a time, we had a discussion about, or shared some content about maximizing your content, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like reusing, or, if you're going to put together something that's, a really great blog post, maybe it's really obvious, but use that on social media. Make sure that your internal audience sees that. Maybe update it from time to time and republish it again. We put so much stuff out there in the universe, and it maybe lives for as long as the internet will allow it, or Facebook, or whatever social
Mm-hmm.
platform will allow it, and then it kind of fizzles off into the digital background, and maybe never is seen again. So like our newsletter is a great example of how we're taking stuff that has been out in the world before, maybe even a while, and bringing it back to people's attention, right? So I think this is a version of that. Now I think we're also going to be creating plenty of new content to help support this and make it, something that's really useful and something that people
Mm-hmm.
actually want to read. But along the way, it would be really irresponsible of us to not look back at all the stuff that we've created in the last 7 years and say, hey, is this still relevant? Is this still something
Right.
that people can use? And let's make sure that we include it, or update it and then include it, or take this piece from it and, do more, whatever. So I think it's a really cool way for us to deliver on some advice that we've given to others, and do it ourselves by taking some really great content that we have out there and getting some extra life out of it.
Yeah. And I think, and we have, I have so many thoughts about this. Um, One of the thoughts I have about this is that I think it's really easy to put time into this is you are serving as my therapist here. When I it's easy to put a lot of care into content and publish it, even if you intend to use it again, or if you have a plan that down the road we're going to come back and hit this again. There is a certain feeling about publishing it and then not having it really seem to hit.
Mhm.
It's a little soul crushing
Yeah.
because I think, and maybe this is just me, uh, with all of my illusions of grandeur, but I when there are certain things, and by all means, not everything, but there are certain things that we've published that I've gone like, this is the thing that should crack somebody's cranium open. This thing is a thought that people don't talk about, or it's something that, you know, is a secret somehow, but shouldn't be a secret. And a lot of people would benefit from it. And then it just sort of, like, we put it out there and it goes, meh.
Yeah.
And it can be so frustrating. But we've also had really good examples when we look back historically at some of this stuff, of things that published like that and then have this phenomenal, like, almost nuclear half-life.
Mhm.
Like, the one that comes to mind, of course, is the one that I will use until it stops being true, is the strategic planning blog that we put out now 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And for 2 years, that has been the top article on our blog.
Yeah.
And, we have looked at it to make sure it's up to date, but that's all we've done with it.
Right.
And, I just think it's one of those things that has that combination of the right the right thing in the title so people can find it, and really evergreen content about it. because it has these universal concepts that
Right.
people can use, you know, no matter
Yeah.
what no matter what the landscape of the business looks like.
Mhm. Yeah. And I'll just state it for the record right now. The contents of this book will include some of that kind of stuff. And it'll probably include some stuff that will become irrelevant real quick because our world's
Mhm.
always changing, and
Right.
marketing is a very always changing, maybe rather volatile kind of industry. So um and that's okay.
Yeah.
All we can do is the best with what we know right now. And but yeah, I mean that is really just a this great example of something that strikes, and we've got other examples of stuff that we think is just as good or better, and doesn't land with people, or or we just haven't seen it or heard about it, right?
Right.
It for me, it like the comparison is like, I don't know, when you clean the house really well, or you clean up the landscaping really well, and you know how much work went into it, you know how beautiful it is, and then nobody notices it or says anything because it's just kind of it's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to keep
Right.
things clean and tidy. We as marketers are supposed to put good content out that people care about and read, and just because we don't hear about it doesn't mean that nobody like is seeing it or isn't appreciating it, or it isn't helping improve people's lives or
Right.
day to day or whatever. But
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a way to put it all together. Put something
yeah.
all together,
Yeah,
and probably in a form that we can update.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Update, iterate on, create a next version of. I think another reason to do this, something that I think motivates me to do it, is this world that we're still living in where like the way that people consume content is still really all over the place. There isn't, you know, I, I think I didn't live in this period, so I don't know, but once upon a time, um, it was like newspapers, um, whatever kind of like outdoor advertising people saw, whether it
Mm.
was, the first versions of billboards or paintings on walls, murals, and things like that. And the newspaper, right? There were just like a
Mm.
few things that everybody read and saw. Those were the only delivery channels. And now we have obviously so much more with um, digital and social media and blogs and podcasts and all these different delivery methods, but there is still a huge amount of people that love the tangible book in
Mhm.
their hands. And we don't do a lot of that. Like we don't take a lot of our content and print it. We don't have a bunch of one sheeters and flyers and rack car. I mean, we have some of that stuff, but not much. And so
Yeah.
this is a cool way for us to put some stuff that maybe could live in that format all together in something that I think is still a really relevant way for us to deliver the message.
Yeah. And that being the purpose of the book, speaking of purpose, this is my ham-handed transition that I just had
Yeah,
to get to. I'm such a child.
you're doing great.
Our plan is to take all of that and unify all of the useful information we can bring together, whether it's that evergreen content or the as of the moment as we can get by the time you put it on the page and print it kind of stuff, and unify it under the broader theme of marketing with purpose.
Yeah.
And that's probably the thing that I am most excited about, is when we zeroed in on what that overarching theme would be.
Hmm.
That crystallized things for me in my head. Like, that's a thing I can talk about
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. And I guess I also didn't really expect much less. I don't think we would have moved forward unless we had a good feeling of like that, underlying theme, or, the
Mm,
broader theme that we're using throughout the book. And again, I guess I'm really happy and wouldn't expect anything less that we settled on something like purpose, which might be the DEs coming out in us.
mhm,
I think that it's, yeah, probably at least somewhat that, but also I think just the way that we are as marketers, as humans, which is authentic, empathetic, and there's not much that we settle on doing without understanding the purpose of it, right? You know, why we're doing this thing, why we're working here,
Hmm.
why we think this is going to help people, you know, all of that. So, as big and um, visionary as it might feel, I also think it's really logical for the kind of people that we are that that's something that we settle on.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I love about it is that there are so many layers to purpose. At the
Yeah,
very core of it, if you're a marketer, like, you have to understand what the purpose is for what you're doing.
yeah,
And if you are meeting that purpose, and I think even that, I think, is something that people miss sometimes,
for
because
sure.
we always did the same thing, we're still doing the same thing, we're using the same messages. Well, if you're not thinking about who you're trying to talk to and where you're trying to talk to them, like, you've got purpose all, you know, all messed up.
Yeah,
And then and every layer, up to that big uh individual and organizational purpose, like the
yeah.
big picture, make people's lives better kind of
Why do we
thing.
exist? Kind of stuff. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. So on that topic, I thought, I know you're looking at the notes and you're like, what? What's the question? There's no question. It's just discuss. But on that topic, Ben, what is your purpose in marketing? Let's go big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why are you here? What are you trying to do?
I get if I say too much, I'm gonna spoil the whole darn book, right?
It's,
No,
well,
just
50% of
um,
it anyway.
right, right, yeah. Um, Geez, I mean, this is so big, and we don't have enough time to talk about it because I think that sometimes our purpose is like to make sure that people understand a thing, and it's
Mhm,
that simple, right? They need to know this new branch is opening on this date. You know, sometimes it can just be so darn simple like that, which is both like a blessing and a curse because you do enough of that kind of work, it can feel repetitive or
mhm,
not significant, or like you're not really helping people. Maybe that's a nice segue into the um, bigger picture of purpose when I think of why we do what we do, and why I do what I do is at the end of the day, it's really about helping people and creating happiness. You
mhm,
know, and I think that every marketer has an opportunity to like their work or their attitude or their mindset in a similar space like that. So many great companies are doing things, you know, all over the world that are, either basic needs, things that people actually need to live, to survive,
mhm,
to provide for their families. Others are providing really cool wants for people that bring joy to their lives and creates happiness. So and everything in between. And like we said when we were kind of you know workshopping or brainstorming the book, we also know that there's probably some marketers out there that aren't doing their work for those same reasons. So I don't mean to paint this picture that we're all a bunch of angels or anything like that, but I think that when you have the good of people in mind and an objective to create joy and happiness for people, you can really find a ton of purpose in marketing because a lot of times we are that bridge or that connector between the thing that people need or want and them getting it.
mhm,
Because without the role that marketing plays, awareness of those things doesn't exist, or the information or education around why people need or want it doesn't exist. And I'm using words like need and want really loosely here, and there's some things that I think marketers will put out there as a need, and it's not really something that someone needs to survive or to be happy, but we do know that they can. And
mhm.
going to really simple examples of like technology and some of the stuff that you see under the Christmas tree every year. Nobody needs a lot of that stuff, but we do know that sometimes it brings people joy and happiness or makes
Right.
life a little bit easier and stuff. So connecting what you do and what you're selling or what you're providing people to purpose rooted in the joy and happiness of people, it's almost like limitless as to how you can connect that to your work if you're a marketer or an entrepreneur that marketing is one of your responsibilities.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could really spend time thinking looking at that the hierarchy of needs, uh, and all across that, like, there once you have satisfied the needs for physical health and safety, like, the hierarchy doesn't end there,
Right.
and it goes on to those higher intellectual needs and emotional needs, and, yeah, I this is all me showing off my fancy education just to say I agree with you. Uh, so I'm gonna stop. I think, the other thing that I want to add, just this is just my commercial for credit unions here, is how glad I am that, I think looking back at my career, I think I would have ended up in marketing in any industry I went into,
Mm.
uh, because I love it. And I think that I am very glad that I started in the credit union industry and that led my path into marketing because you get to you get to experience just such a much broader view of purpose marketing through a credit union. Uh, and then when you understand that part of the credit union movement, the social purpose behind it, I suppose probably similar if you did, came up through marketing in a nonprofit or something like that. Um, but once you experience being able to be that kind of marketer, if you open your mind to it, you can see how anyone
Yeah.
could be that kind of marketer. That you don't have to be in the credit union industry
Right.
to associate what you're doing with making the world better, helping people, connecting people with the things they want or need, and making the world better through what you
Hmm.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I, I, I don't know what, we haven't really talked about, like all of our end goals or desired outcomes for this thing. Right. Right. Um, but I can't help but consider, I mean, one, just the reality, like we're talking about actually having a physical, tangible book, something that, I don't know, maybe sells on Amazon or, whatever. And we've talked about some of our expectations here where, like, at the very least, it's a cool gift we can give to our
Mhm,
clients or our teammates or whatever, right? But who knows? Maybe it's something that is just so darn well done that people want to pay for it. I think if that's something that we are going to wind up with, it would be wise of us to have an audience in mind for who we think is going to read this thing and stuff, but also make that audience big enough so we can spread this goodness to as many people as possible.
mhm,
And to that point, I think that while we're talking about marketing a lot and purpose in marketing and stuff, I imagine that a lot of what we're going to be talking about will be applicable to any other or several other areas of expertise, industries,
mhm,
and like a couple of examples that quickly come to mind for me are that I think are in a similar space sometimes as marketers, because advertising is everywhere. People have to sit through the commercials when they're watching their favorite sport or show sometimes. Maybe that's changed a little bit in the streaming world, but I don't know if you've noticed lately, but a lot of those streaming services are adding ads into their platforms to make them more money and to make them more affordable for the end user, right? Or keep them affordable, I should say. Anyway, long story short, because of all of that, I think sometimes when you hear marketing or you hear advertising, there's this like perception of like, oh gosh, how could people do that for a living? Like putting ads in front of us all the time and stuff. And I think when we go back to that purpose conversation, it's a really easy answer for us. Like, well, we're giving people information about things that help improve their lives. I think sales departments or sales teams get a similar rap, like,
mhm,
oh, they're just trying to sell me something. It's like, well, yeah, if they don't sell you something, you're not going to get it. And what they have is something that can help you. And then all the way back or all the way down to like, back office work or factory line work or some of those things that are really easy examples to come to where people are like, oh my gosh, how could somebody do that all day? It's so repetitive, boring, whatever.
Mhm.
Well, you're doing something that is absolutely essential to the operation of the organization, to the process of developing their building or creating that product, whatever, right? And without those roles, like thing that the people are selling, the thing that the marketers are talking about doesn't happen, right? So it's all connected. And I think you can apply the same principles of like purpose to each of those things, or, really I say almost because you know how much I don't like to say everything and never,
Right.
um, but yeah, anyway, all that to say, like, I'm excited to see how it comes together and how, while it might be through the marketing lens, really applicable it could be to so many other kind of industries or job types, things like
Yeah.
that.
I think that really speaks to what I think is a core thing you and I both believe, which is uh, people can people can bring good to the world from any direction. Everyone has an opportunity to make the world better for other people,
Mhm.
and so. And maybe that is even one of those spots where you'll actually be okay with me saying everyone, but
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's it maybe is a universal thing uh to believe. And if that is, maybe that's a thing that we can explore more, to say, like, yes, we're marketers. And so therefore you're hearing this from a marketer, but also, you know, I scrub toilets for a living for a while. And when I
yeah,
scrub toilets, I felt the same way
yeah.
about how my work connected to making people's lives better.
Hey, for sure. Keeping people safe, healthy. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
And I just to clarify, I don't want to go back to that.
Okay. Thanks for letting me know. I
Just
was
in
making I
case.
was making a note.
Like, she knows how to
Bathroom's a little
scrub
dirty.
toilets. Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you what, man, I can clean a urinal like nobody's business.
Oof. Nice. Noted.
But I don't want to.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, so yeah, so to your point, where do we go from here? We have
Yeah.
a lot of work to do. We have a lot to figure out. And we're applying this idea that it's going to take the next year, but only because calendar is.
Yeah.
That's of our podcast. Welcome
Right.
to season 6, by the way. Should have said
Yeah.
that at the
Right.
very beginning of this episode, but that's okay. Um, and we have this pre-planned structure. We've decided last year, in those
Yeah.
12 months, and this thing happens in 12 months. I
Right.
don't think we know it'll take 12 months.
Right.
Uh, we just know that feels like a great idea right now.
Yeah.
We see a lot of possibility. Um, and here on this podcast, if you're still listening to us, as we're gushing, I feel like this is one of the gushiest episodes we've ever done. You can expect to hear this kind of gushing, hear us talking through some of the things that we plan to include, because we're definitely going to need space to uh, have those conversations and try to focus those conversations into something that is palatable. Uh, we'll be seeking out experts. Hopefully, we'll make some of those connections, bring them on the podcast to talk to, and we're going to ask for input to find out what people.
You got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how's that sound? Let's do
Sounds
all
great.
that.
Yeah. Maybe since we haven't, I don't think, formally verbalized it yet, part of the reason we're doing this in this platform, is very much because of the success that we saw in the last 12 months with the Accountable Teams project and the Revolutionized Teamwork book. Having this space for us to talk about it, to be vulnerable, to create some accountability by sharing our plans with our audience, and then having to stay true to that. Really created some really cool moments in progress for our team over the last year, and um, just all the more um, reason for us to do something else like that with this cool
Right.
space that we're in right now. So I don't know. I'm maybe that was just something that people were connecting the dots on by themselves, but I think it's worth being really clear about the benefit of vulnerability and transparency and accountability
Right.
and all these other ility words that are sounding really
Agility.
buzzy right now. Yeah, but I got a ton of value out of just knowing that every month we got to talk about this thing. So let's make something happen. So we've got something to talk about, and um, really excited to see how it affects us too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we did a nice little recap in our last accountable teams episode of last year. But I think we could have equally started this episode. I think I just wanted to get to the announcement, but could have equally really talked about uh, what about the value that all of that brought. And because we did talk about our favorite moments, but I don't think we ever really either called out to each other or called out on the podcast that that was an effort that we made up because it sounded good. That is way oversimplifying what it is, but
Yeah,
uh, no one told us that that was the way to do it. There wasn't a uh, there wasn't a pre-programmed explanation that we saw in out in the universe that we could follow and do the same thing. We built the idea behind that as we went along, and we went in not knowing what would happen, and it was successful.
yeah,
You know, we part of what made it successful, I think, was the willingness to pivot what success looked like. Not in a way where you say, "Oh, well, we did some things and it's fine," but in a way to say like we've continued to move forward, and what is successful about it is that we said we were going to do this to stay on track, to keep working on it. We did that thing. We can see evidence of the changes that we've made as a team over the last 12 months. And even as we sort of like drop the mission accomplished banner on that with that, we know that this is a continual
right.
process.
Yeah,
And that yeah, and I'm sure we talked about this probably more than once on the team on that podcast, that it's a different dynamic to run a team. And every time we add someone new to the team, we're going to be rebuilding what that plan is,
right,
because virtually everyone is going to come off of a team that runs, the way people are accustomed to, with top down responsibility and,
yeah,
you know, maybe a lack of accountability.
right.
So I think those are just final thoughts I felt like I wanted to express. Hey, good job on that. Keep
Hey,
up the
and
good work.
yeah. Um, just to close or add one more thing to what you said, um, because I think it's only fair to, we may also receive the blessing of a teammate that's come from a really accountable, really high functioning team, and we
Mhm.
can learn from them and continue to grow that way too. Um, so
Yeah.
that'll be, exciting to experience someday. And the other thing that I just want to, I feel compelled to say is um, the the decision to do these things this way, the accountable team stuff last year, this book project now, where we kind of like activate the podcast as a channel to like invite people into the experience and stuff. It feels so logical to me, only for the fact, besides all the benefits that we've already gushed over in a couple of
Mhm.
episodes now, besides all that, also just for the simple fact that if we're going to do this stuff, we have to have these conversations anyway.
Right.
Like we're going to be talking about this stuff anyway. So why not record? Why not invite people into it? Why not create that extra level of accountability by knowing that we're being an open book and sharing the experience
Mhm.
really with each other, because we have to prepare and talk about it, and to with the audience. So
Right. Yeah. That
So
really is, I think, similar to it's the it's the same. It's not similar. It's exactly the same logic I use when our team meets.
yeah,
When we have to make that decision of, this is really something that Ben and I are going to decide. Does everybody have to hear how we come to this decision? And sometimes we just make the choice like, yeah, we people need to know, our team needs to know how the sausage is made. They
yeah, right,
can't we can't just function uh in a space where they think there's magic behind,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
behind the things that get figured out. It's like it's this sometimes weird, uncomfortable, little messy
hmm,
conversation. I mean, all good, all with
yeah,
good intentions, but it's not always
yeah,
easy or cut and dried, or we don't
hundred
always
percent.
agree.
Yeah, sometimes they see the indecision or the maybe lack of knowledge that we might have about a thing, and see like, oh, well, shoot, if they can dive into something without having all the answers, maybe I can too. And then there's other times where maybe we are perfectly buttoned up and we say, yep, this is exactly, we know exactly what we need to do here. Here's how we're going to do it. And they
Mhm.
see that and they say, oh gosh, how do they know all this stuff? And maybe that's inspiration for, professional development, training, more education, whatever, and all of those things happen. Let me be very clear. The perfectly buttoned up, we know all the answers thing. That's probably um, just as rare as the shoulder shrug. Well, we have no idea what we're doing. We're
Yeah,
usually somewhere in the middle of all of that, but there's a benefit to share all that info with the team.
yeah, yeah. The perfectly button up one is only we've probably done everything possible wrong up to
Right,
that point.
right,
We're like, okay, these are all the things that don't screw everything up. Do
right.
those.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait. So, any other final thoughts about the book now that we're done talking about accountable teams, since we were supposed to be done last month
Yeah.
talking about it anyway, but
No, nothing for me. Just lots of energy. Thanks everybody for hanging in there. And really, it would be awesome to hear from a listener with, I don't know, an idea or any words of inspiration to keep us going for the year, because while we're excited, we're gonna need the extra fuel to push this thing to the finish line. So,
yeah, good point. So, you can to that point, you can find us in a lot of places. You can reach us at marketing at exclamationqso.com if you want to just send a good old fashioned email. Is email old fashioned? Probably not.
nah,
At
not
this
yet.
point, it kind of is. You can follow us online uh, on our socials. Do you think I know all of those handles? Do you know all those handles?
No, I don't.
Just
Yeah, sure.
go, go to, go to Facebook, go to LinkedIn, search exclamation Q. So you'll find us. Uh, and you can go, oh, well, you can also go to our website, which is exclamationqso.com. And you can reach all of our socials there. And you can also check out our blog where you can see all of this, all of our blog content and our podcasts over the last several years. We're really excited to have you on this journey with us. So we would love to get your input. We're going to publish our book updates on the second Wednesday of each month. And then you will find our regular episodes, which this year we are going to focus on getting lots of great interviews. We're very excited about some of those that are coming together already. And
Mhm.
thanks to Scott from our team who's getting those together for us. And yeah, don't forget you can learn more about us, even though I've already said this, at our website, exclamationqso.com.
You got it. The reminder doesn't hurt, Sue.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Be awesome. We'll see you next time.
The Osmology Podcast is a production of Exclamation Services. Thanks to Nick Mulliver for sound production and Kylie Ganther for our cover artwork.
Executive producers are me, Ben Bauer, and my friend Suzanne Campbell.